So with everyone's permission, let me mute all of us, and then Professor, you could unmute yourself. We can get started.
Yes.
So this is the fourth session, and today we are going to begin with the question and answers. The questions are expected based on yesterday's talk. We apologize, there was no time for question and answers yesterday. So we may begin with that. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box, and I'll try to go through them one by one. So first question, sir, Shankarji is asking, in movement of thought, after seeing the disorder in the thought, shall I stop there or go into the things behind the words in that particular thought?
These are not things which are amenable to voluntary decision. Any kind of control through the will only brings in the ego. But I think we need to take up questions concerning yesterday's talk. But if there are none, then we can go on with today's topic.
Yes, I'm also pulling in the chat I saved from yesterday. So let me see if I can find the pertinent questions from there. Meanwhile, please feel free to repeat your questions here in this chat. So this seems a bit related. That please tell us why speech was preferred medium for Krishnaji for communication of teachings, as you mentioned yesterday.
Why what?
Why speech was preferred medium for Krishnaji to communicate his teachings?
Well, all communication is through thought. But if the inquiry ends with thought, then you have ashes. But it begins with thought. How else will you communicate what you are thinking or what you want to, what meaning you want to convey? That is the role of thought, thinking. What is important is not whether you are thinking or not thinking, but whether you are thinking egoistically or non-egoistically. That means the motive behind your speech. Krishnaji often said the approach to a question is more important than either the question or the answer. Because the approach determines what you will receive from it. If you approach it egoistically, seeking something for yourself, either a result or an answer, then you will get only knowledge and intellectual. If you are seeking a deeper perception of the truth, then, and you are not motivated by any results, then it's an entirely different inquiry.
Yeah, I must apologize. I'm finding it difficult to find yesterday's questions, but we will go through the ones here. Sir, Rajivji is asking.
In that case, we can permit people to ask in person because perhaps they don't want to write it down. With
Sure,
one
sir.
request that just ask the question. Don't give a long preamble or express your own opinions and then ask the question. Because otherwise it takes up a lot of time where other people may need to ask questions.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, Gayatri ji, please go ahead.
Just wanted to ask if Krishna ji was an avatar last time, like because you said that we will take it up later. So, if you would like to talk about.
You know, nothing, I don't know really what an avatar is and whether he was an avatar. So my opinion doesn't have much value. But whatever superficial knowledge I have about it, with that, it does appear to me that it was something like an avatar, because he also said that it's not my teaching. I have not thought out the teaching. It comes to me like revelation. Now, whether you call that revelation as Maitreya or you use the word the other, it's not just a matter of nomenclature. Some of the great artists and musicians and so on have also said that they don't compose their music, that they just put their mind in tune with the surroundings and it flows through them as if it's something out there which needs a channel to come through. So I don't know whether that was what was happening to Krishnamurti, but that's what Mrs. Besant and Leadbeater had said, that the Maitreya consciousness will manifest through him. And Krishnaji said, it's not the consciousness that manifests, that would be like the sky manifesting. What manifests is the teaching. So whether you want to call it his teaching or you want to call it Maitreya's teaching, it's up to you. But it's a great mystery about Krishnamurti, and we don't really know the truth about it.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm Rajiv. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, Rajiv ji.
Sir, this is related to your talk yesterday. The title of the book is Jewel on the Silver Plate. Sir, because you were initially quite hesitant when Krishnamurti asked you to take over Rajghat.
Yeah.
And so what is the jewel? Perhaps you can tell us now in the hindsight, all these experiences you have had over the years since that time. So what is the jewel? Because at that time, I don't think you were feeling that you were getting a jewel, because you were quite hesitant. And the silver plate. So that if you could elaborate on this, it will be nice to us. Thank you.
I also don't know. I have stayed with that question ever since. But those are the words in which he said. The jewel could be Rajghat, because he did mention that it was handed over to him by Mrs. Besant when he was much younger than me, and he was in turn handing over to me. And one conversation which is there in the book, which I forgot to mention yesterday, which was a turning point in my decision and which ended my hesitation, was his statement, or rather a query: if your father was on his deathbed and wanted to leave you something, would you argue? It brought tears to my eyes, and he noticed that. And I said, no. He said, it comes to you like that. Take it like that. Whether he meant all the teaching, whether he meant the work, whether he meant Rajghat, It's just a question of interpretation. I don't know.
Hello, sir. This is Rajesh.
Yes, please.
Hello, my voice is.
Yes, your voice is clear.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have asked two questions yesterday. So firstly, I want to know that I could ask my two questions, or I can ask only one question.
I prefer to answer one question at a time because I find it a bit difficult to remember number.
Yeah. So first question I asked yesterday, that the hunger is a very natural and biological phenomenon. So what is the meaning of this statement of Krishnamurti, that I don't feel hunger? It is a natural, it is a factual, it is not a mental construction. So I could not understand this thing. How one can claim that I do not feel hunger?
Well, how did Einstein discover that space and time are not independent of each other? It was not in his knowledge. It was not in his experience. He was just living with the question that something is wrong because we are not able to explain all observed facts. And he was wondering. And suddenly he had this insight that space and time are not independent of each other. Now that insight is something that comes from not your knowledge and memory. It comes from the unknown. So this capacity of the human consciousness or mind to make a foray into the unknown and pick up something from there and bring it into the known, that's what is called creativity. Creation is not the same thing as invention. Invention is putting 2 and 2 together and making 4. Creation is something totally independent of thought, and thought has only created the question, but it is not involved in giving the answer. So what Krishnaji is saying is that truth is not the known. What you know is your conditioning, which contains a lot of illusions. It does contain certain amount of facts too, but also a lot of illusion. And therefore your thinking has no basis so long as it's rooted in that conditioning. So freedom from conditioning is the beginning of learning, according to him. It's not the end of learning. Learning doesn't even begin until you are free from your conditioning. So it's a bit of a mystery how insight takes place. And Krishnaji's entire teaching is coming from insight, from perception. It is not coming from thinking. He uses thought to express to communicate what he is seeing. But he is communicating what he is seeing, not what he is thinking. It's a bit subtle. That's why he says that the teaching is not in the book. The book points to the teaching. You must not discuss the pointer. You must look at what it is pointing to. Stay with that question and discover the truth for yourself. That is the teaching.
Thank you, sir.
You're
My second question is related to the book Jewel on Silver Platters. It is in 44 pages, where you said to Krishnaji, I want to ask for two things. I know that you cannot give them. I know that you cannot give them to me, but you can perhaps wish them for me. So here you remember that is done. Krishnamurti corrected what is right. So then my question is, Krishnaji got up from his bed and walked up to me. He looked intensely into my eyes and put one hand on my face, and I held his arms and could feel the blood throbbing in his veins. So this, I want to know that what is this incident? It is he is giving, he is just wishing, or he is giving you something in this incident? This is my question. If he is giving something.
Yes, I have understood your question.
Yeah.
Conversation took place on the last day of his stay in India, in Madras, when I went to say farewell to him, not knowing whether I will see him again. And the incident that you narrated, I have put in the book. You see, his whole teaching says that the truth cannot be given to you by your guru or by another. You have to perceive it, because what you can get from the guru or from a teacher is only an explanation or an idea, and truth is not an explanation or an idea. So you have to take it as a question and discover it for yourself. That is the teaching. So that's what I meant when I said, you can't give it to me, but maybe you can wish it for me. And he did wish, and he wished it very intensely for me. I don't know whether wishes act or not, but he had many very special powers about which I have written, and which were sort of occult powers, which I don't have any of them. So one never knows. It's part of the unknown, part of the mystery of Krishnamurti. But he did say all those things which I have put down there. I can't explain it any further. I myself don't know what is the significance of that.
Thank you.
So I had one question, which is like we can say applied Krishnamurti maybe, that how has your life changed after meeting Krishnamurti? Do you think also you also have no conflict like Krishnamurti said?
Kanchan, I don't really measure all that. It has no value to measure all that. You are not on a path. It is not an achievement. So what will you measure, and with what scale will you measure, and what will you compare with? There is no destination with which you are doing this. So it's just, if you come upon the learning mind, you're already leading the religious life. It's not that when you become liberated completely and free, then only you are in the religious life. This moment, if you go from the achieving, knowing mind to the learning mind, that's the transformation. That's the transformation that's instantaneous. It may be that you have jealousy, but how do you approach the jealousy? Are you approaching it with a judging and condemning mind, or are you approaching it with a learning mind? That's the difference.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course, this half hour is meant for questions.
Yes, Narendranath ji, please go ahead.
You summarize the teaching. What I recall was, one is you are the world, then virtue cannot be practiced, then you cannot follow follow anybody. What were the other points
I must interrupt you, sir. Today we are taking up the questions for yesterday's talk. Questions regarding the teaching, we have plenty of time to do that in the coming weeks. So let us confine
May I
ourselves.
ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Namaste, Professor Krishna. Did
Namaste.
Krishnamurti have any personality apart from him being a world teacher? Did he have any preferences, likes and dislikes in personality?
No, that's not true. Of course, he had a personality. He had opinions. He has no attachment to his opinions. He is not dogmatic upon his opinions. You know, freedom from conditioning doesn't mean absence of conditioning. If something is absent, you don't have to be free from it. When it is present, you need to be free from it. So it's there. and he expressed his opinions. But when you question them, he would immediately say, of course, I could be mistaken, sir. So he was holding the opinions very lightly and not sure of it. There is no attachment, there is no psychological investment in a view or an opinion. So that is what is freedom.
नमस्कार सर। नमस्कार सर, मैं आशीष बोल रहा हूँ
जी
सर। हाँ सर, मेरा प्रश्न ये है कि जितनी
इंग्लिश में पूछें, because most of the people here probably don't understand हिंदी।
सॉरी सर, मेरी फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज हिंदी है, मैं नहीं पूछ पाऊंगा।
अच्छा, हिंदी में बोलिए, I will translate it for you।
हाँ सर, मेरा प्रश्न ये था कि जैसे कृष्णमूर्ति की एक सात्विक कोशिश थी कि कृष्णमूर्ति जी की कि हम सब साधक बने, पर हम डिसाइपल बनने के लिए हमारा प्रयास ही डिसाइपल बनने का होता है। एक जैसे वो मुझे मेरे नजदीक लाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं और मैं उनके नजदीक जाने के लिए की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आप किस तरह से देखते हैं सर?
He is asking that what's wrong in being a disciple? One is not trying to come near the teacher and the teacher is trying to come close to you. So what is wrong with being a disciple? Nothing is wrong, sir. But you have to deeply understand what disciple means. Disciple word comes from discipline. Normally we think discipline means conformity to some kind of pattern or some kind of rules and so on. And it requires an authority to give you that pattern. That's one. The other meaning of disciple is one who is learning. Like we say, physics is a discipline. It means it's a part of one's learning. So that's the other meaning. And Krishna ji gave to disciple this meaning of learning. So you have, if you are a true disciple, you are wanting to discover the wisdom which is there in the teacher, not imitate the teacher and follow some rules given by him, not approach it like an achievement, but as a quest for truth. Truth being something which you have yourself to perceive. So that's what it means, the statement that you have to be a light unto yourself. This is not the field of knowledge where you can learn from an expert some techniques or some methodology. This is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge has to come from your own perceptions. The teacher, if he is only giving you the question and inspiring you to explore for yourself, that's fine. But if he is trying to tell you, do this, do that, and so on, become my disciple, and then you will get some reward, then it becomes an ego process. So you read about him, he has expressed what he meant by the true guru and the true disciple. Is different from what we normally think of as disciples, as followers, and so on.
I think Sabu Simon had a question. If you may ask, sir, if you're still there.
If it's in chat, you can read it, Rohan.
Sir, they were trying to unmute themselves. I was assuming they had a question. There was another question in the chat, one that I read. Sir, were you there in America in K's last days? What was his last message on those days?
I was there till 6th of February because he asked all of us to leave. He said, you have important work to do. I have said what I wanted to say to all of you. And please don't just hang around waiting for me to die. It may take a long time. So we all left except a few who stayed back. So I was not there on February 17th when he passed away. I left on February 6th. And I read about the last tape which he made on February 7th, where he said that there is a tremendous intelligence and energy which has used his body, and the body can't take it anymore. It just can't. And so it's going to come to an end. You can read that. It is there, quoted in Mary Latience's third volume of the biography called The Open Door.
If time permits, may I ask
May
one
I
more
ask
question?
you?
Okay.
Yes, who was this?
I was Rajiv.
Rajiv Ranjan.
Yeah, Rajiv
Yes,
Ranjan.
sir.
This is
Please
my
go ahead.
second question, if I can. Yeah, sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, everybody's bonds condition. This is agreed, I think, in a particular setting, in a particular cultural context, etc., etc. One is brought up like that. So, do you think that the truth about which Krishnamurti is talking about and can be found also within the cultural setting of the person? And once if so he may be in the cultural setting, but he may get the truth and live in that cultural setting.
Yeah, I got your question. If you are not attached to that conditioning, if you are aware that your mind is conditioned and that it is a result of where you were born and brought up and so on, including the biological conditioning, which is our deep innate nature. If you are aware of all that and you don't identify with it, you have the freedom to move beyond it. Doesn't mean that it ends. It is there. Like your skin color is there, but it doesn't interfere with your perception of truth. In the same way, why should your knowledge interfere with the perception of truth? But when you are attached to that knowledge, when you invest in it, which is what creates the ego blocks the perception of the truth because it gives you a partial view. It colors your perception. So if you can hold it lightly, it doesn't color your perception. And even if it does, because you have a learning mind and you are doubting all conclusions, you can very quickly discover that it was a mistake. That's what we do in science, don't we? We come to false notions and soon discover that there is an experiment which is pointing out that it is not true. We drop it. But if a scientist is attached to his theory, he can't perceive. And he's not really a scientist. So just as science is independent of the scientist, in the same way, this inquiry into truth is independent of the teacher, even also independent of Krishnamurti. He may have done it to a very deep extent, and I do believe that he went very far into this quest. And you should read the book called Wholeness of Life, the dialogues there. He points out that all this business of freedom from the ego and freedom from conditioning is just a very superficial thing. It's the beginning of learning. Once you do that, the subconscious begins to come into the conscious, and it can also be watched and cleaned up. Then the collective subconscious comes into the consciousness, and that can also be watched, and you can go beyond it. So there are great depths to this inquiry, and we are at the first stage trying to free ourselves from the ego. Learning hasn't even begun, according to him. Sorry if
Sir,
this
may I
sounds,
ask?
and that's what he said.
May I ask you? question, sir?
Well, that's what this half hour is meant for.
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है, what is happiness and inner peace? Is it persist every moment?
That's the topic for today. So I will be giving a talk on this today after this question hour is over.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So I'm Sabu from Bangalore.
Yes, please.
Sir, I feel that I am understanding Krishnamurti's teaching by listening to you. Since he said word and description is not the thing, I am getting closer or getting far by listening and understanding teaching.
Hold your understanding lightly, sir. It may be a false conclusion. It may be an illusion. Don't take it for truth. Keep looking. The
Okay,
learning
sir.
mind doesn't live with the conclusion of yesterday. That's the teaching. But I think we need to end this if we want to have the talk, Rohan, today's talk. Otherwise, we'll have no time for questions on that.
Yes, sir. I agree. We are already 30 minutes in to the session. And if you would like to begin, we can begin with today's chapter.
Yes. Today's topic is a pursuit of happiness, which is one chapter in my book. I must repeat here what I said yesterday, that these chapters are talks which I gave, which are my explorations of Krishnaji's teaching. What Krishnaji said is given at the top of this chapter, and I am exploring that statement. So I am responsible for the exploration, not that of Krishnamurti. It is my exploration of his teachings. So please take it with a pinch of salt, as we must take all talks and all comments, because if you just accept an explanation or accept a statement, then that is not the truth. You have to come to perception, and that is what is the pathless bit. To come upon the description of the truth, there is a path. You can read the books of Buddha or Ramana Maharshi and so on, and you can get the statements of the truths or Krishnamurti. But how do you go from the idea of the truth which you have to the perception of that truth? That is the pathless bit. That is something which time doesn't help you there. It's a creative perception. So having said that, let me take up the topic of today, which is my investigation of the statement on top where he says that happiness cannot be pursued. Now he insisted that our investigation should be based on observations and not just intellectual. So let's begin with observation. If you observe around you, you will find that almost everyone is seeking happiness in his own way. Mostly, people think happiness comes through achievement, through success. So the student thinks when he passes his exams and gets his degree, then he will be happy. The businessman thinks when I have made my factory and started making profits, I will be happy. The unmarried man pursuing his boyfriend or girlfriend, thinks that after he gets married, he will be happy. The scholar thinks that after he has written his book and it has sold, he will be happy, that achievement. The religious man thinks that after he practices all the techniques and methods, austerity, brahmacharya and all that, then he will come upon liberation. Now, all these people have one thing in common. They are positing happiness in the future. They are thinking that if I achieve some results, I will come upon happiness, which means they are not happy now because you don't seek something which you already have. So that's question, that why is it that happiness eludes them? And why only very few people like the Buddha or Jesus Christ or Krishnamurti or Ramana Maharshi and so on have really come upon a lasting, true state of happiness? When everybody is wanting happiness, perhaps even the trees and the animals, not through thinking, but they also seek happiness. Because happiness is just a state of order. When there is nothing disturbing your mind, when there is nothing that is wrong with your body, you are just happy. Happiness is a state but unhappiness has a cause. And all this quest has of self-knowledge is to eliminate the cause of unhappiness. Then there is happiness. You can't create happiness. So happiness is a byproduct of understanding. But because people don't know that, instead of seeking understanding, they are seeking achievement. So let us look at that. Why does achievement not bring happiness? After all, in the last 10 years, I have had several experiences, read books, acquired more knowledge, explored certain things and so on. I didn't have all that 10 years ago. And that's where I am now. But I'm now standing at a line which is a little different from the line at which I was 10 years ago. But there are still things beyond this line which I don't have. There is knowledge which I don't have. There are relationships which I don't have. There are pleasures which I don't have access to. And that is true of all human beings. The poor man is probably wanting to get a bicycle. A little better off person is wanting to get a motorcycle. A still richer person is trying to get a car or a Mercedes. And the rich man is probably trying to buy an island in the Pacific or something like that, where he thinks that he can go for his vacations and find happiness. So all these people, including the so-called traditional religious man, are all positing happiness in the future, which means they are not happy today. They are dissatisfied with what they have now. And they are seeking satisfaction. Now, when you approach life that way, you are looking across the line where you are standing with desire, wanting something which you don't have. there is a definition of poverty, that that man is poor who still wants something or needs something. And that man is rich who doesn't want anything, doesn't need anything beyond what he already has. Think about that. That's one definition of poverty and richness, independent of money. So what happens when a person is wanting to push his lines ahead and get a few things on the other side of the line onto this side? It may be relationships. It may be that I don't have a son and I want to get a son. It may be that I want to get married. It may be I want to go and see foreign countries which I have not seen, whatever. There's something which is beyond the line which you are still desiring. Now, desire has its own consequences. It energizes you. You seek fulfillment of that desire. And so you work a lot. You work, you save money, you go to a guru and you practice techniques given by him and so on, all in order to achieve some result which you have in your mind, which is beyond the line. So it gives you a lot of energy for activity and thought. Then you may not achieve your heart's desire. Your desire may not be fulfilled. Then you experience frustration, which is conflict, which is a negative emotion that destroys happiness. Or it may get fulfilled, in which case you experience a sort of joy of fulfillment, which lasts for a while. Then you get used to it for the same reason you got used to all the things which you already have. And boredom sets in. And so until another desire is born, which again energizes you. So Oscar Wilde put it in his inimitable way in the sentence, there are two great tragedies in life. One is not to get your heart's desire. The other is to get it. Because if you get it, temporarily you feel elation, but soon the energy which was coming from the desire has disappeared, and therefore stagnation comes, boredom comes, until a new desire is born. Then again you are energized into activity. So that makes a kind of vicious circle. Desire, frustration or fulfillment, elation, then stagnation, boredom, back to desire. And this circle, one is caught in this vicious circle all your life. So what I'm saying is, psychologically, whole of humanity is in the same state. We are all bored people. That's why the entertainment industry exploits our boredom and makes so much money out of it. It has come up, the sports, the cinema, the TV, the internet, everything is trying to make money and entertain you. Why do I need to be entertained? Because I am bored. Why am I bored? Now that's a question worth investigating. What is boredom? After all, I have the knowledge that I have. I have books in my house which I haven't read. There is my neighbor, the neighbor's child who plays in my garden. There are all these trees and birds and the river. There is perhaps reasonably good health. And that's an infinity. When you are laid up in hospital for 1 month, you pray to God and you say, I don't want anything, God, just give me the strength to walk on that road. But once you have the ability to walk on that road, you forget. You get bored with walking on the road. You want something else. So this constant quest for new experience, something more exciting, is a quest for escaping from boredom. And we are now examining what is boredom. When there are so many things, why is it? I don't find interest in any of them. My own children, their homework, I'm not interested. Why? Is it because I have become insensitive? So is boredom born out of insensitivity? Then I have to, if you are really exploring into yourself, your inquiry goes deeper. You watch. What causes boredom? Why you are insensitive? Are you not eating the right kind of food? Are you not sleeping enough? There can be various physical causes for insensitivity, overeating, and so on. Correct that. That will go away. Another cause for insensitivity is more difficult to be free of, is ambition. Because when you have ambition, all your attention and energy is directed towards the fulfillment of that ambition. So you have no time for the river or the bird or the tree or the neighbor's child or even your own children. You tell your wife, you look after his homework, I have more important things to do. And so on. So you don't relate, you lose your relationship with all these things. If you don't pay attention, you lose sensitivity. If you don't sit by the river and watch the river silently, you won't develop a feeling for the river or the tree or the sky. But even when you are doing something, half your being is in the office, thinking of the problems there. That's what ambition does. And why has the office become so important? Well, because my promotion is linked with that. Because I'll get more money if I get promoted, and I'll get appreciation and name and fame through that achievement. Therefore, it's very important to do that. And the other things become unimportant. So my mind creates what is important and what is not important. And I ignore what is not important, and therefore become insensitive. We don't realize that. Society promotes ambition, promotes competition, promotes achievement, saying it is necessary, it's useful, you're doing work for the society, and so on, so on. So in that atmosphere, you take it almost as for granted that you have to do that. Everybody around you is doing that. So you never really deeply inquire into this. And you accept boredom as a normal thing in life. Boredom is there. Everybody is bored. Everybody feels worried. So you complain only when there is excessive boredom or excessive worry. Otherwise, it is normal because what everybody experiences is quite considered to be normal. If only you worried and nobody else worried, you would go to the doctor and you would say, something is wrong with me, sir. Doctor, find out why am I worrying, but none of my friends and so on worries. But you don't go to the doctor because You take it for granted that this is normal, everybody is worried. So you have to also question, what is this thing called normal? And why does the mind accept the normal? That means with what everybody else is going through is okay. So Krishnamurti made an interesting statement. He said, social morality is immorality. Everybody is violent to some extent, so it's all right. You must not be violent beyond that. That's social morality. So if you have a religious mind, you question all this. You question ambition, you question competition, you find out its source within you and its acceptance. You learn that you are accepting all this because it's around you in society, and society has done propaganda and your mind is trapped in that propaganda. But otherwise, you don't realize it. You take that for the truth. That is what is called an illusion. Illusion means there is something you are taking to be true, which is not really a fact. But it has become true for you because you have accepted it. It's really part of a propaganda. It was Hitler who made a very interesting statement, which is worth examining. Don't discard it just because you think Hitler was an evil man. Krishnaji's teaching is you must learn from everybody, including Hitler. Hitler made the statement that the only difference between truth and a lie is in the number of times it has been repeated. So if you go on saying Coca-Cola is the best drink, Coca-Cola is the best drink, Coca-Cola is the best drink, slowly that will become the truth in the minds of people. That's what he's saying. He's saying deeply held propaganda is what is called truth. The religious man is saying no. Propaganda is not truth. Propaganda is just influence. Go beyond influence. That's the teaching. Go beyond influence. Then you are not influenced by your culture or your nationality or your religion and so on. It is there. You are aware of it. You may even take part in the ceremony. Recently, somebody sent me a video of Krishnamurti chanting the shlokas and so on. He used to do that in the Theosophical Society. Bharat Samaj Puja, it was called. And in all his schools, that chanting goes on in the beginning of the day. For 10-15 minutes, all the students collect together and chant. So he was asked, isn't all this propaganda for Hinduism? He said, if you are clear in your mind, you can enjoy the music, see the beauty of the chanting and the words without being influenced by the meaning of it. So it's not that you are not conditioned. I may be conditioned into appreciating Indian music. My mind may not respond to Western music. But do I get influenced? Do I get proud of it? Do I get attached to it? Do I develop an identity out of it? A feeling that this is mine and we are a superior race and all that? All that is the ego which is created by the mind through identification, through opinion, images about oneself. If you don't do all that, it's just like the color of your skin or the knowledge in your head. I know physics, but I don't know art. I never learned art. Not a great thing to know physics. So it's all right. It is sitting there in this fellow's head. He can solve some equations, but he can't repair the tap. The other man comes and repairs the tap. And why do I think solving equations is more important than repairing the tap? That's just because that fellow gets a lower salary and I get paid more for solving this equation. So it's all connected with money, with returns, and so on. You have to deeply inquire and think about all this. Otherwise, your mind will never be free of all this. And so long as it is not free, you are judging and forming conclusions and opinions with a mind which is full of such illusions. It is not only the illusion of God and religion and so on. It's this illusion about boredom, about pleasure, about happiness, about what is love. All this is also illusion. We think that love is sexuality. We think love is attraction, love is attachment, love is possessiveness. Is that the love that Buddha talked about, or Krishnamurti, or Ramana, or Jesus? We say, I love ice cream. So do you really know what love is? We don't. So what we think about love is illusion. It's not a fact. That's not love. That's desire, and you're calling it love. So the world deceives you. Because you call it love, it becomes love for you when it is actually desire. So like that, there are a lot of illusions in one's mind and one is not even aware of them. And with that mind, you are taking decisions, you are coming to conclusions, you are forming images about people and all that. The whole thing becomes a travesty of anything that can be called truth. So Krishna says, without freedom from conditioning, without self-knowledge, you have no basis for your thinking. Dwell on that. Don't accept it, just dwell on that. So, come back to the question of happiness. I discovered that so long as I am approaching life with desire of any kind, happiness can only be momentary. In moments of fulfillment, you will feel happy. The rest of the time, you are struggling. You're not really happy, you're trying to be happy. So it's like a mirage. You know what a mirage is? In the desert, you see water in the distance. And you come near and there is no water. And it recedes. You see water further in the distance. So happiness keeps receding like this and always tends to lie in the future until you die. And then perhaps there is no future. Or some people believe there is. So we don't know. So you can't pursue happiness through achievement. Now, if you can't pursue happiness through achievement, then how do you come upon happiness? That's where the value of self-knowledge is. Find out all that makes for unhappiness. All the negative emotions make for unhappiness because they bring pain, sorrow, fear, conflict, everything. All disorder in consciousness is painful. Learn that it's possible to be free of that. And Krishna is saying, it's the creation of your own mind. It's different from pain. Pain is biological. When you fall down, there is pain, that's biological. Self-pity is psychological pain. Feeling insulted or hurt is psychological pain. That's a creation of one's own mind. And therefore you can be free of it through understanding this whole process. And understanding this whole process through observing it happening in your own consciousness. Observing with a learning mind, not an achieving mind, not a suppressing mind, not an escaping mind. A learning mind brings you a deep perception and understanding, which is self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is the key to wisdom. So that liberates you from that vicious circle. So if you discover for yourself, not as a conclusion because Krishna or Krishnamurti pointed it out, that desire keeps you in this vicious circle. And if you wish to find out whether there is something, some way you can end this vicious circle, you must observe boredom. You must get rid of insensitivity, which has its own causes. So you must eliminate ambition, eliminate competition in your consciousness. Compound freedom from the egoistic impulse. Then happiness is there. After all, you have all experienced that. Sometimes when you're quite healthy, energetic, nothing is disturbing your mind, and you go for the early morning walk, you just feel happy for no reason. You're happy just to listen to the birds, to see the sky, to see the sunrise, to meet a friend, because nothing is disturbing your mind. So get rid of this disturbance, get rid of the negative emotions, and happiness is there. But that requires deep understanding of your own consciousness and of life, which is this exploration of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is a process. It's the process of removing the obstacles to the perception of truth. Because without self-knowledge, you will interpret and you will come to a conclusion which is false. But because the disorder in consciousness comes from illusions, that's why it can be ended. Because illusion can be ended by perceiving what is true and what is false. That's also what you do in science. People thought the earth is flat. Not true. They did experiments and so on, discovered that it's not true. It's really a sphere of very large radius. They thought the earth is at the center of the universe and everything rotates around it. Until they found that's not true. So when you inquire, when you discover the false, and the false ends. Our understanding of physical universe also has come through ending all kinds of false notions. And there may still be some false notions which are all the time being ended, including this whole theory of the Big Bang and all that is being questioned now, because there are things it can't explain. So God knows what all will be discovered to be false. In the same way, there is this deep inquiry into yourself to eliminate the false notions in the mind. That's freedom from conditioning. So long as I am approaching life with desire and having this illusion, then that pushing that line at which I am standing further by bringing a few things on this side of the line, I will come upon happiness. It's an illusion because there are people who are behind you and they are also trying to push their line. And there are people who are ahead of you, they are also trying to push their line. So psychologically, everybody is in the same state of mind, the state of desire. That is what it means that the future is now. Psychologically, Krishnamurti is saying the future is now. That means 10 years from today, I will be in the same state as I am today, though I may have more houses, more knowledge, more techniques, and so on. But again, your mind will be pushing that line. So you are again trapped in this vicious circle of desire, fulfillment, boredom, desire, and so on, stagnation. That's a very big trap to understand. It's one of the most important things to understand in life. So how to live without desire? Because then desire energizes you. If you are not free from this and you just try not to have desire, you will end up with no energy. You will begin to float around without any desire. You'll say, why should I go for a walk? That's desire. I must remain at home. So this kind of conclusions coming from confused mind further complicates the matter. So don't make conclusions. Just keep inquiring, keep learning, wherever that takes you. So happiness cannot be pursued directly. It's a byproduct of sensitivity. And sensitivity requires attention. Attention to the present. Whatever that present is, you may be playing with a child, you may be in a game, you may be reading a book. Don't do it ambitiously. Don't do it for a result. Just enjoy it. There is joy in every aspect of life. There is joy in sports, there is joy in art, there is joy in music, there is joy in good health. There is joy in every aspect of life. But you must pay attention to experience that joy. The experiencing of that joy is sensitivity, is beauty. So we destroy our own capacity for joy, for our own capacity to perceive beauty in the simple things of life. And we seek it only in some achievement, whether mathematical equation or business proposition or whatever, in achievement. Which doesn't mean you don't do anything. So does it mean that I have to just sit down and play with the child and look at nature and not do anything? No. Krishnaji went around the whole world trying to set man free and spoke for 60 years or 70 years, not taking any money for it, not charging anything, like a true Brahmin. A true Brahmin in India dispenses of his knowledge without any return. He did that with tremendous passion, but not with an achievement in mind. Because that's the right thing to do. When a child is going towards danger, it's the right thing to point out to him, don't go that way, there is danger. And Krishnaji is saying that to us. Don't approach life like this, there is danger. But I don't see it. I think that is his opinion. My opinion is that it's good to have ambition, it's good to be competitive. You need that to make achievement and success and so on. So you go on with your own this thing and you listen to him. So in the last year of his life, he said to me, sir, who will listen? The businessman comes, he says, very nice talk, sir, very good, very inspiring. But, you know, I have my business. The scientist comes and says, please, sir, but do I have to give up my science in order to do what you are saying? And so on. So who will really listen? Nobody is able to listen because they are all trapped in their own desires and their own ambition and their own conditioning. So it's a deep quest. We are destroying our own happiness and we are not aware of that. We are chasing a mirage. We think happiness lies in the future. It doesn't. Either you are happy now, whatever be the circumstances, or you will never be happy. It is not something dependent on circumstances. It's dependent on how you look across that line, how you approach life. And that's why Krishna said the approach is more important than either the question or the answer. So happiness is a byproduct of understanding, of self-knowledge. It cannot be directly pursued. What you will pursue is pleasure, and pleasure is not happiness. I think I'll end it here, and I hope we still have some time for questions. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
15
We have 20 minutes or so for questions.
Good.
Thank you. So this question from Kanchanji is, she's asking if is happiness is a state when you are able to see the false.
It's a state you cannot create through thinking and through your will. It's a state that is a byproduct of wisdom, and wisdom itself is a byproduct of self-knowledge. So when you understand this, then your concern is with understanding yourself and understanding life. For no reason, for no achievement, not with any aim in mind, just for its own sake, because you are living and it's a mystery and you want to explore that mystery. After all, why did all the scientists explore? Not everybody did it in order to create electricity or all these machines and so on. They were just exploring because that's intrinsic to human consciousness. We have inquiry. Nature has put inquiry into us. We direct that inquiry. So direct it into understanding yourself and understanding life. And don't ask, where will it take me? And I will do this only if it gets something in return. That's a commercial mentality. That's how I understand Krishnamurti's teaching.
Sir, Mr. Path Singh has question related to desires. He's
Yes.
asking, how will you comment on relationship between Krishnamurti and Rosalind? And was it not because of desires giving momentary happiness?
It's not possible for us to know the inner state of any other individual, including Krishnamurti. In his first book called At the Feet of the Master, it says, don't attribute motives to the actions of others. What you see is the action. You guess the motive. You imagine what would be your motive if you were doing that action, and you attribute that motive to that person. It may not be true. Therefore, don't attribute motives to the actions of others. And why are we interested in understanding what Krishnamurti was? Will that bring you self-knowledge? Or are we saying we will read Krishnaji's books only if he was a perfect individual, perfect in your definition? So have you found that out about me before listening to this talk? Do you make friends only with people who are perfect? It's a thankless job, sir. Don't do that. The important thing is to understand ourselves, not to understand what Krishnamurti was and what his relationship with Rosalind was. Now, sex can be done with love as part of the expression of love, and sex can be done with lust, with a feeling of possessiveness and attachment. How will you find out? When a man is having sex, whether he is doing it with love or he is doing it with ego. And why should you find out? Watch whether you do it with ego or you do it out of love. Both things are possible. That's why no action in itself is either right or wrong. It becomes wrong when it is done egoistically. It can be quite right if it is not done egoistically, but done out of love. So don't judge another. Find out for yourself what your motives are and learn about them and of their consequences. Don't also accept that you must not be egoistic. This conclusion is not going to help you. Find out. Be egoistic and find out, see the consequences of it. But see for a long time and far. Don't quickly come to the conclusion. Otherwise, the man who takes a bribe feels that it is profitable to me. So if it's profitable to me, it's right. Everybody takes a bribe. I also take a bribe. But when you look far enough, you will see that you are not an isolated individual. You are part of society. And if it is right for you to take a bribe, then it's right for everybody else to take bribes. So when you take your child for admission to the school, you will have to pay a bribe. When you go to the hospital, you will have to pay a bribe because you are spreading bribery in society by practicing bribery. That's how it comes back to you. But you think you are a separate individual, separate from society and so on, which is an illusion. We are all interrelated, interdependent, and that requires a far vision to understand and perceive that. So don't contribute to violence, don't contribute to corruption, to greed. Each one of us has that responsibility of not contributing without asking, will the world become non-violent if I become non-violent? That's the wrong question.
Thank you, sir. Another question related to happiness is there no role of time in happiness?
Well, time passes, because the earth will not stop going around the sun, whether you have perception or don't, and whether you win the game or you lose the game, and which way you respond in your consciousness. So time goes on. Chronological time goes on. But perception is not a matter of time. Either you have perceived the truth or you have not perceived the truth. It's not 10% perception and then 50% perception and then 90% perception and then you come to the truth, like climbing on a circular road going up the hill. It's not like that. It's like a quantum transition. Either you are at the bottom of the hill or you are at the top of the hill. You can't be halfway between the two. So a quantum transition occurs in time but doesn't take time. In the same way, perception doesn't take time, but of course it occurs in time, as does everything else. Krishnaji had his first mystic experience in 1922 when he was 27 years of age. Did it come because of everything that he did? Up to then, find out. Is insight causeless or it is caused? If it is caused, you can work at it and create the cause. If happiness has a cause, find out. Then you can create conditions and bring about that cause and you will be happy. Try it, sir. Find out what Krishnamurti ate from 20 to 22, what techniques he practiced, what exercise he took. Copy all that, do that, and see whether you get the 1922 experience. And you will discover for yourself whether it's time helps or it has nothing to do with time.
Yes, sir. William Rubble has this comment first. Krishnamurti often said that love is a complete attention. And then a question, could we say that happiness is a sense of interrelationship that arises when we are fully attentive?
You can't decide to be attentive. If you decide to be attentive, it becomes concentration. Then concentration is not the same thing as attention. Attention is something spontaneous, natural, not requiring effort of will. When you so relate with others, with property, with nature, there is sensitivity, there is perception of beauty, there is happiness. It comes out of attention, there is love. When there is a sense of achievement, of doing something for the sake of achieving some result or getting a reward, then it's the ego. And the ego is the most destructive thing of love. So Krishnamurti defined love as love is where the self is not. So find out, are you doing what you are doing with selfish motive or without a motive? If there is no motive in it, then it's a religious activity. It's part of love. We are capable of it. It's not a very mysterious thing. In most of our hobbies, we do it just for the love of it. But most of our time is taken up by our ambitions in life, and there we are egoistic. That is where you get all the frustrations and conflicts and competition and rivalry and violence and everything. You don't get that in growing the garden around your small plot around your house. And therefore you value that more because you value achievement. You don't value your garden. You think that is a hobby which I do to escape from boredom. Don't use the garden as an escape. Pay attention, do it with love, and see the difference for yourself. Everything can be done with love, sir, and everything can be done egoistically. That's not what Krishnamurti said. That's what Krishna is saying. Find out. Don't accept it. Including sex. It can be done with love. It can be done egoistically.
Sir, Shyamji is saying that if one does not pursue happiness, then what is the meaning of living?
What is the meaning of?
Living. Meaning of life. As in
find out,
living.
Sir. Why do you want somebody else to tell you the meaning of life? Life is a great mystery. Don't believe what other people tell you. Find out. Explore the mystery. Maybe that's the purpose of life. But we give to it our own purpose. I want to make a car. I want to make a factory. I want to study this. I want to be the best runner in town. We make our own purposes. That's all part of the ego. But find out a purpose which is not from the ego. What is the purpose of life? And one of the purposes may be to learn about life, to learn about oneself. But find out, don't ask other people to tell you what the purpose is.
Sir, one other question that we may not have touched on, so I'll skip the ones in between. Gayatri ji is saying, K used to say there is a pool of goodness. Please tell us what he meant by that.
He did say that, but I don't really authentically know what he meant. He said there is such a thing as a reservoir of goodness, and one can access it. I think, may not be true. It means that to access it, you have to free yourself of the ego. Because otherwise, everything the ego converts into some kind of a reward for oneself. One is working for some pleasure, some reward, some name, some fame, some achievement for oneself. When that is not there, you touch the reservoir of goodness. That means he also used the word flowering. Goodness flowers in consciousness. He gave that as one of the aims of education in his schools, that you have to help children to flower in goodness. Now, flowering is not something you do by decision. Flowering happens, you nourish a plant, you give manure to it, you give water to it, and so on. It flowers. In the same way, you help the child, you provide everything to the child, and the child will flower in goodness. It's not you who create that goodness. What you create will be propaganda for the child. So don't deliberately do propaganda to create goodness, but let it flower in the child. That means it's a very much bigger responsibility. We'll discuss it when we discuss the chapter on education. You have to create an environment around in which this inquiry and learning is a fact of everyday life for all the people around. Then the child naturally imbibes that. But right now, he imbibes desire, he imbibes ambition, he imbibes the ego, because that's what he sees around him. And that corrupts him. So if you can create an atmosphere of complete non-violence, of compassion, of love, of goodness, then it will flower in the child. It's a very big responsibility. It is not just a technique, and you cannot start a Krishnamurti school like people just buy the Montessori material and say, we have a Montessori school. He didn't give you any material, any method to make a Krishnamurti school. He just gave a vision and left it to you, because you can't implement it without coming upon wisdom and understanding.
Sir, in last couple of minutes remaining, it's maybe a very good question to end with. Sumitra ji is asking, is there a link between happiness and intelligence?
Ultimately, if you examine deeply, you will find that all these words mean one and the same thing. But we have given different definitions to them in society. But when you examine deeply, like Keats writes, truth is beauty and beauty truth. That's all there is to know and all that you need to know. What is he talking about? And if you read Krishnamurti and explore deeply, you will find that truth, intelligence, wisdom, happiness, order in consciousness, beauty are one and the same thing at the deepest level. But when you are talking about them at the manifestation level, they are different.
Thank you, sir. Sir, it's time for today, but few people are wanting to hang around after we stop the recording and interact with you if that's